So we rotate the editor-in-chiefship, and until April it was Minas Kastanakis from ESCP London, and now I've just taken over as editor-in-chief for the next 3 years, having been co-editor for the last 3 years. And fortunately, the managing editor is the same, who supports us enormously, is Joanna Duncan, who now is also at the University of Glasgow. So we are very much a broad brush management journal. We publish papers on any topic within the broad domain of business and management that make a substantial contribution to knowledge. So we're looking for original, innovative research, not very marginal, small contributions or replications. Because we are quite broad brush, we are looking for generalizability and interest to more than one discipline within the wider spectrum of management and organization studies. So we appeal to a wide readership. We therefore like our papers to be accessible and interesting to non-specialists within the area. So we encourage papers to be clearly written and not too jargon focused for a specific subject area. We also like our papers to be accessible to practitioners within the fields, and we encourage all papers to make a practice contribution as well as a theoretical contribution. So again, we encourage the language to be clear, concise and accessible to multiple audiences. Most of our contributions are empirical, using many different methods, both qualitative and quantitative, and again, quite interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary. Certainly papers need to be theoretically contextualized and to make a theoretical contribution. We also publish theoretical contributions and integrative reviews, systematic reviews, etc. We also welcome innovative methodology papers as well. So just to give you an idea of our reach, these are our sections with associate editors, from marketing to international business, to business strategy, to supply chain management, and to accounting and finance, and all points in between. A few quick statistics here. Our impact factor is now 2.369, which has increased enormously in the last few years. And so we're very happy how this journal is progressing, and we hope to have success in terms of moving up the rankings quite soon. We have about 1,000 submissions a year. We think this year it might actually be up to 1,100. Our rejection rate is similar to the other two journals, in that it is around 92%. We accept about 8% of all articles submitted. We are quite quick in terms of our review speed. We try to make an initial, here as well, it's the same thing. We try to make a initial decision within a week. And a first editorial decision within 3 months. Okay, so the way it works here, we have 6 issues a year. One of those is always a special issue, and one is also a general issue with a mini special issue, which we call management focus. And these are normally about 4 to 5 papers with an editorial as well within a more general issue. Okay, so I screen all the papers as they come in, and I desk reject about 75% of those.
The recording has stopped.
and assign about 25% to associate
This
editors.
meeting is being recorded.
So the associate editors assign papers to 2 reviewers rather than 3 in many other journals. We go for about 2 rounds of reviews, rarely go to 3. We try to make an editorial decision in the second round. Okay. We have a very high standard of reviewing and a very good reviewer pool, a very committed reviewer pool, and again there is a focus on developmental feedback for authors. Because we use 2 reviewers and again have very good bank of reviewers, our review process is relatively quick, as I said before. Although obviously at the moment things have been held up a little bit because everybody is so terribly busy with COVID related issues. So I just wanted to say a few things about reasons for rejections. Mainly, it is a lack of contribution, a lack of original contribution, particularly theoretical contribution, and weak positioning, that it's not very clear why this area is of interest or why a certain theory is being used and how that relates to existing knowledge in the area and also existing knowledge and debates within the journal itself. Some papers are too data driven and again do not engage enough with theory, which always pains me when I see lovely data but it hasn't really been engaged with theoretically enough. And this, I think, leads to the next point, which is lack of clarity, conceptual drifting. Quite often a paper says it's going to do one thing and by the end it's done something a little bit different to that. And again, I think that's connected to what was mentioned before, things not being quite fully cooked, premature submissions. Always ask somebody else to read your papers before you submit them so you get an idea what the reviewer is going to come across and how they're going to accept it. Another thing is not tailored to the journal's aims and focuses and also its debates and conversations. We quite often see papers that don't use the format of the journal. They just, they've obviously just been sent from another journal and they're not formatted in the way correctly for this journal. That's a bit of a sign to me. I do sometimes send those out if there are good ideas, but it is a little bit of a sign to me that they haven't really thought about the journal very much. And we don't publish highly mathematical papers either. So a few personal tips from my 4 or 5 years in post. Use the introduction to tell the reader what the paper is about, why it's important, and how you're going to research the issue or how you're presenting the issue. And try just to have one clear problem that you're addressing. Sometimes there are so many, it's really hard to aggregate what's going on. Use your theoretical contribution to set up your theoretical contribution so we have a good idea by the end of the lit review where this paper's going, and what sort of contribution it might be offering. You don't actually have to totally say it by that point, but lead the reader through, I would say. Then some things about reviews I've noticed, and I think this idea of response to the reviewer is really important. Really respond to the reviewers. Show the reviewers that you've heard what they've got to say. Quite often I feel some of the responses are very, very dismissive, and they don't always leave every stone unturned as well. They might ignore some of what the reviewers say. So please don't leave every stone unturned. Please engage with everything along the way. And even if you don't agree with the reviewer's comment, engage with them and explain to them why you don't agree and why you're doing things the way you're doing them. Make sure your contributions are drawn out in the conclusions. Quite often, very often I see that the conclusion's not that the contribution's not clear. And I think it's helpful to include a cover letter to the editor-in-chief. Not that many papers do, but I do notice that the papers that do, it just shows a little bit of extra care, and those are often the very well-crafted papers that do that. And I have to say that, it's very helpful to have the paper summarized before you actually go in to read it. So that's a little bit of a personal hint there. We have some best practice videos. Our journal, we're particularly encouraging early career researchers to put in their papers, particularly work from PhD thesis. And this is obviously not always easy to craft a paper out of a huge thesis. So we do quite a lot of developmental work with authors, particularly in the past at conferences. Obviously we can't do that at the moment, so I'd like to direct you to our best practice videos that give a little bit more information about the journal, information about how to avoid desk rejects, why theory is important, what an intellectual contribution is, what European means in our context, and advice on creative writing. Okay. Also, again, this advice has already been given. Read editorials, so give an idea what editors are looking for at the moment. I have my incoming one, which might be of use, and we had a collective editorial from all the AEs, all the associate editors, a couple of years ago, where they were saying, you know, what the hot topics are in their areas, and they would like to see more papers on. We've got some special issues at the moment, so please have a look at the website for those, and also for the smaller management focus sections. We have Best Reviewer Awards, and here's just an example of, again, the fact that we are quite broad brush as a journal, and you can see the most cited articles. There is quite a diversity here, and we try to make as many of those open access as well. Okay, so that's me. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions, or if you're interested in a special issue or management focus in the future. We're booked up for a couple of years, but you know, it's good to have those conversations, and please follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Right.
Thank you very much, Sarah.